Good morning, Malacanang Press Corps. Welcome sa press briefing ni Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Good morning. We're pleased today to have the chairperson of the Presidential Commission for the Urban Poor, Attorney Terry Ridon. As chair, he has been tasked to implement the presidential directive of no demolition without relocation. He has served as the head of delegation to the Asia-Pacific Conference on Housing and Urban Development in New Delhi and was among the representatives of the country in the UN Habitat Conference in Quito and the UN Climate Conference in Marrakesh. He formerly served as Kabataan Party List representative in the 16th Congress with membership in critical committees including legislative franchise, energy, ways and means, natural resources, transportation, among others. He's also a public interest attorney for the environment. He came from UP College of Law, and he has an impressive list. Ladies and gentlemen, PCUP Chair Terry Ridon. Sir.
Thank you. As an opening statement, we just wanted to read to make some comments on the Senate hearing related to the Kadamay incident in Bulacan. And we wanted to say that we support the pronouncement of the President that the new housing program will be granted to uniformed personnel affected by the occupation in Bulacan. Further, we also support the pronouncement of the President allowing members of Kadamay to continue occupying long idle houses in Bulacan. We believe that the President was guided by principles of social justice in making his pronouncement and serves an affirmation of his firm commitment that no one will be left behind in this administration. The Bulacan incident gives us further resolve within the housing agencies to push for on-site and in-city resettlement as the main mode of resettlement of informal settler families affected by public infrastructure projects, court orders, or disaster-induced relocation. Off-site resettlement should also be abandoned as a main mode of resettlement and should only be considered as a last resort, particularly in view of the costs of economic dislocation of informal settler families and the costs of creating an entirely off-site new township with full services, utilities, and livelihood. This is also an opportunity to push for a higher budget for housing, albeit better termed human settlements budget equivalent to 1% of the country's GDP, similar to international benchmarks given to other social services responding to basic needs like education, health, and social welfare. We thank Secretary Abella for the opportunity to articulate the agency's position on the matter and make a commitment that together with the President and the urban poor, it is our hope to see a future in which there are no people without houses and there are no houses without people. Maraming salamat po.
Questions? Pia Ranyada, Rappler. Microphone, Joseph, please.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, there was a survey by Pulse Asia which showed that trust for Duterte among the poor has eroded by 7.7 percentage points compared to the December survey which they had. This is March and then comparing to December. Sir, what do you think could be the cause of the eroding trust among the poor?
Well, I think at this point, very important would be the question on whether or not we had been able to deliver already the promises to the poor. And I think this is something that is still a work in progress. And many of the line agencies are actually doing their job, particularly social welfare, environment, in making certain that all of the promises are being delivered to our poor, not just the urban poor.
Sir, there are some analysts who also say that this eroding trust could be because the drug war is not targeting but is affecting a lot of poor Filipinos. What do you say to this conclusion by these analysts?
Well, I think in respect to the drug war, it is in the interest of the poor and the urban poor to really see that criminality and the drug problem is resolved within their communities. And I think, obviously, it is unfortunate that several of the people in the poor communities are affected by it. But I think within these communities, if you go to those areas, there would be, at the very least, an affirmation that responding to criminality and the drug problem is really a very important step towards nation building.
Sir, given these figures, would you have any recommendation to the administration on how maybe they should tweak or if they should change their strategy when it comes to programs for the poor or programs that affect the poor?
Well, in respect to responding to the drug problem, I think many of the agencies, even in particular the Presidential Commission for the Urban Poor, has been trying to implement particular interventions in respect to the demand side of the drug problem. So, PCUP has launched Urban Poor Contra Droga in several cities already, and this really aims to provide the softer approach towards the drug war. And I think this is something that many of the line agencies would really want to undertake already. So Department of Health, Social Welfare are also doing their part in terms of really undertaking the community rehabilitation programs in responding to the drug problem.
Sir, just a last follow-up. So, sir, you mentioned softer approach. Can you just elaborate on how do you compare the softer approach with the hard approach? What exactly is this?
Well,
new
when we
approach?
speak about it, we really speak about empowering the communities in responding to the drug problem. Ultimately, in implementing the drug war, you will have the leaders there that should be able to, community leaders in those areas, that should be able to really shepherd many of the communities against drugs. And that is what we would really want to do, empowering the people's organizations, the NGOs within these urban poor communities to really stand against drugs and help government in resolving the drug problem.
Okay, thank you, Pia. Dexter Ganibe, DZMM.
Hi sir, good noon. Sir, kahapon may nangyaring sunog ng mga settlers sa ilalim ng tower ng NGCP at ito ay tinatayo ngayon. Ang binabanggit ay hindi na pababalikin yung mga nakatira doon sa ilalim ng tower, which is talaga namang bawal. May hakbang po ba ang inyong tanggapan kung paano ito? Kasi ano po yung nangyari? Hindi naman siya yung talagang pinalaya sila. May nangyaring na sunog at wala silang matutuluyan or paano po yun?
Ang posisyon ng ahensya ho namin, hindi pa ho tapos ang usapan doon. So, malamang ang mangyari ho, sa sunod pong 2 araw, magpapatawag po ng interagency meeting sa pagitan ng NGCP, which is yung affected area ho, PCUP at lahat po ng mga shelter agencies, LGU, na involved po dito sa usapin po na ito. Kasi hindi naman ho pwede na pabayaan na lang ho natin sa kalsada yung ating pong mga kababayan. So, that is something that we would really want to resolve na hindi lang parang, sige, alis na kayo dyan. I think that is not how we would want the Duterte administration to proceed in respect to resolving problems of the urban poor also.
Kasi hindi lang po yun yung problema dahil may mga linya po ng NGCP na sa ilalim nito, which is pinagbabawal talaga tumira kahit hindi, basta yung dinadaanan ng transmission lines at maraming mga maapektuhang nakatira doon sa mga ilalim ng transmission lines.
Totoo po yun. Kaya nga ho, very important ho yung interagency. Para ibig sabihin, this is not simply a question of parang legalismo, no? Na kumbaga, basta pag nasunog na kayo, alis na kayo dyan. Hindi ho ganun yun eh. So, ang posisyon ho ng ahensya ho namin, pag-usapan pong muli ng komunidad, pag-usapan pong muli ng mga ahensya, particular ho kami at ng NGCP, kung sa papaanong paraan ho ba talaga natin at the very least mabigyan ng ayuda ito pong mga kababayan po nating naging apektado ng sunog. Ibig sabihin, nagrabyado na nga ho sila ng sunog eh. Parang wag na ho nating itodo pa ho yung kanilang problema sa pagpapalayas po sa kanila ng ganun-ganun na lamang po.
Last part sa aking point, doon pa rin sa issue. Sir, kasi kagabi, ang lakas ng ulan, yung iba wala talagang masilungan. Dahil isinara yung toll gate doon sa Alabang, doon sila pansamantalang sumilong. So ano po ang magiging hakbang ngayon ng pamahalaan para sila ay matulungan naman? Mukhang walang enough na area para sa kanilang pansamantalang titirahan. Dahil ginagawa po ngayon yung tower, which is very delikado naman na doon sila ulit magtayo ng kanilang mga titirahan.
Immediately ho, dapat mapatawag na ho namin interagency kasi particularly in terms of yung pong immediate concerns, talagang ang nakaatang ho sa lokal na pamahalaan ho yan at nakaatang ho sa mga social welfare agencies ho natin yan. So, tingin ko naman ho, ginagawa ho ng ating mga ahensya ang kailangan gawin para dun sa immediate concerns. At i-follow up ho namin dun sa mga particular agencies po para matiyak ho na hindi naman ho silang papabayaan.
Thank you, Dexter. Benji Liwanag, DZBB.
Good morning, sir. Sabi niyo immediate concern. Ano po yung mga nakalatag ng immediate concern lalo na nitong mahihirap? Una kasi yung pabahay eh. Ito yung problema kagaya ng Kadamay.
Well, yung Senate hearing po na naganap po, I think 2 days ago, isa ho doon sa mga immediate ho na talagang way forward na inilatag ho ng housing agencies, particularly ho ng NHA, at sinusuportahan po namin yung actual na ho nga pag-qualify no, nung pong mga apektado hong pamilya dito po sa Kadamay incident. So, ongoing na ho yung processing po ng kanilang mga papeles. At bahagi din po dyan yung pagtitiyak din ho ng mga serbisyo at pasilidad no, na sa loob ng mahabang panahon hindi ho natugunan nito pong nagdaang administrasyon.
Okay, bilang chairman ng Presidential Commission for the Urban Poor, sumasang-ayon ba kayo dun sa inihayag ng Kadamay na wala silang babayaran kahit anuman basta mabigyan sila ng pabahay?
Hindi pa ho tapos ang usapan dun sa totoo lang. So, I think nasa proseso pa ho ng negosasyon kung talaga ho bang ibibigay ng libre o hindi. Ito pong pabahay po na ito. Pero gusto ko lang din hong magitin na sa iba't ibang mga proyekto ng pamahalaan sa pabahay, meron hong tinatawag na housing grants. No? Ibig sabihin, talagang outright binibigay po ng libre sa ating pong mga kababayan. Yung pong mga kabahayan po na ito. Ibig sabihin, wala na ho yung cost recovery na tinatawag. Sa ibang bahagi naman, meron hong tinatawag na cost recovery. Ibig sabihin, may buwanan pong hulog ang ating pong mga kababayan. So, yun ho yung kailangan hong pagpasyahan bilang patakaran ng NHA at ang ating pong mga housing agencies. Kung ano ho ba yung best na mode of payment or kung may mode of payment nga ho ba na gagawin dito po sa insidente pong ito.
Isa rin po dun sa sinasabi ng mga mahihirap or yung hindi lang Kadamay kundi yung pong trabaho na ibibigay ng gobyerno. Ano pong immediate solution ng gobyerno on this?
May mga nakatakda pong mga TESDA trainings and may pondo ho sa totoo lang for livelihood sa TESDA, DOLE, in fact even sa DSWD para ho sa ating pong mga mahihirap. So, isa hong package po ng mga ayuda po ito na sa totoo lang dapat maigiya lang ho natin para sa mga beneficiary po talagang karapat-dapat pong tumanggap para rito.
Okay, so nakita po ba natin na mas marami pa dapat ang makatanggap nitong tulong or ayuda mula sa gobyerno kagaya nung mga ibinibigay na monthly sa mga mga piling na napipili ng DSWD?
Well, sa kasalukuyan ho, ito po ay tumatakbo ng programa ng DSWD. Pinag-aaralan pa rin sa totoo lang ng bagong administrasyon kung i-expand pa ho ba itong CCT program po na ito. Pero tingin ko kung talaga naman hong nakakatulong sa atin pong mga kababayan, halimbawa natitiyak ho yung pag-aaral ng atin pong mga anak o kaya yung pagkakaroon ng nutrisyon ho nila, at tingin ko dapat pag-aralan pa kung paano ho ba talaga magpapatuloy sa susunod pong 5.5 taon.
Maraming salamat po.
Ina Andolong, CNN Philippines.
Hi, sir. Sir, I believe the previous administration set a 10 billion peso project for the relocation of informal
50
settlers.
po. 50.
Or 50.
Yeah.
Dapat natapos yata yun in 5 years. 2012 or 2013 nag-start yata po yun. So it should be supposedly in its patapos na.
Yes.
Can you give us an update on that if you know kung ano po nangyari doon?
Well, it's a continuing project. No? So, and bahagi po niyan yung relocation ng ating po mga waterways communities sa Pandibulacan and other areas. So we have our present commentaries also on how the project was run, particularly in terms of site identification. Kasi our concern has always been the economic dislocation of many of the waterways families, which is why I think within the new administration, there ought to be a prioritization particularly on on-site or in-city housing. It's particularly more expensive than off-site. Pero alam po ninyo, dahil nandito na ho yung mga paaralan, nandito na ho yung trabaho, hindi na ho kailangan gumawa ng mga bagong townships like in off-site resettlement area. So ultimately in terms of costs, para magpapantay pa rin ho yun para sa pamahalaan at para sa mga apektado pong mga pamilya.
Sir, how do you reconcile yung yung pag-prioritize ng on-site relocation with government efforts to also decongest Metro Manila?
Well, bahagi po yun, parang I think that's something that we would really want to undertake also. But in terms of yung decongestion of Metro Manila, that is something that will not most definitely happen in the next 2 years, I think. Kasi you really have to build new cities in the course of the next decade, perhaps. Ano? Pero these are immediate concerns that we really need to respond to at this point. So, tingin ko naman hindi ho naman dapat pagbanggain yon. Let the other agencies proceed with the decongestion while still responding to the immediate concerns and problems of the urban poor in the cities.
Thank you, Ini. Elijah, Business Mirror.
Good afternoon, sir. 2 questions lang po. First, sir, gaano na po ba kalala yung housing backlog ng bansa para masabi natin na justified yung occupation ng Pandi housing units?
Yung backlog ko ngayon, based on HUD-C data, 5.6 million po yung backlog, no? By the end of the term of the president. So, basically, we will have to be able to produce 1 million new houses by the end of the term. And we are talking about a staggering amount of funds, no? And yung pong sa pagtataya po ng PCUP, I think we would really need maybe around almost more than 1 trillion to respond to the housing crisis, no? So, and what you wanted to say is the current level of spending for housing is clearly not enough to respond to even a large percentage of the problem of housing. So, which is why, ang sinasabi ho namin, 1% GDP, it amounts to maybe around 180 billion. That would be a far better spending on housing compared to the present spending that stands at around maybe 20 billion.
Sir, nabanggit niyo po kanina na hindi ko po alam kung tama, pero kapag idle yung housing units, papayagan po ng administration yung pag-occupy? Or hindi naman po?
Well, it's not the general policy. Ibig sabihin, I think the president had made it clear that when he allowed to continue occupying Kadamay to continue occupying the idle housing units, he was merely referring to the idle housing units in Pandi. So, I think the housing agencies are also preparing to really respond to that situation. At yan ho yung talagang ginagawa ho ngayon ng NHA at ng iba pa hong mga ahensya.
And last question po, the administration just announced on Tuesday, it will be heavily investing on big-ticket infrastructure projects under the Build scheme. Based on history, these massive infra projects runs conflict with urban poor settlements, as the state and its partner firms are required to demolish some of the informal settlements for the establishment of these infras. Paano po yung halfway ng PCUP being the mandated agency ng government to protect the urban poor, and yung the likes of the DOF, DTI, Department of Transportation sa pagtatayo nitong infra?
I think we have to remember that PCUP is the final clearance for all the demolitions, particularly for infra projects. Ano? So, under the leadership of the president, he has made it clear that there will be no demolitions without relocation. So even if we speak about big-ticket infrastructure projects, I think part of the spending will most definitely be made towards relocation of many of the affected informal settler families.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you, Elijah. Last 3 questions, Raymond Tinasa, to be followed by Joseph Morong, Laila Salaveria, and Henry Uri. Microphone, please, Ina.
Ay, sir. Magandang hapon po. Sir, yung nangyari, ang ginawang pag-take over ng Kadamay dun sa mga idle settlements, mga housing projects, you are convinced that this is not a bad precedent for other urban poor groups? Kasi hindi lang, I understand, Kadamay has no, monopoly of its rights or their rights to have a house of their own. So, yung ibang urban groups, hindi ba sila parang ma-engganyo rin na will do the same and eventually the president will grant them to own the house?
Tingin ko hindi naman po. No? And I think as far as government is concerned, it has really served as a wake-up call to really confront squarely the problems that had been besetting the housing sector for the last few years. No? And sa totoo lang, papasalamat pa nga ho yung maraming mga ahensya. Dahil naganap po ito, talagang na-put into the spotlight na talagang meron pong mga bahay na walang tao, samantalang maraming tao na walang bahay. At yun ho yung, that is the nexus that we would really want to resolve. Na may pondo para sa bahay, pero wala hong tao. So, yan ho yung pagtutulong-tulungan ho ng mga ahensya ng pamahalaan sa susunod pong 5.5 taon, tingin ko.
Sir, have you checked yung mga housing projects sa Pandibulacan kung they are actually decent house in their form and substance? Kasi I understand marami sa mga developers talaga ay yung pagkagawa talaga ay parang 1 year warranty lang substandard. Tapos yung bakal, walang bakal actually, inakyat-akyat lang yan, tapos walang laman yung hollow blocks. So have you check kung, kasi yun yung nagagaling yung corruption. So the reason my question is, hindi pa pwede yung hayaan yung beneficiary na sila na mismo yung magtayo para sila na mismo yung overseer of their own home, of their own house.
Well, sagutin ko muna yung unang bahagi ng tanong. Sa totoo lang ho, inikot ho namin yan. Talagang bulok ho yung marami sa mga naitayo ho ron. And we really have to be frank with everybody about it. And in fact, some form of accountability needs to be undertaken towards everyone that had been involved in building all of those houses. No? So, pero pangalawa, totoo ho yun. Maganda hong, sa totoo lang, isa ho sa mga napag-usapan ho sa Senado nitong nagdaan, yung pong kawalan ho ng konsultasyon sa lahat po ng mga apektadong mga tao, kahit kasundaluhan man yan, kapulisan, doon ho sa site identification. Sinabi ho mismo ng AFP tsaka ng PNP, hindi naman kami nakausap dyan . So, very critical ho yun na dapat talagang partner from the very start ang mga apektado pong pamilya dito po sa paglalatag po ng mga housing projects po natin. Kasi kung sa una't-una pa lang ho, hindi na ho sila pumapayag, siguradong hindi pa rin ho sila papayag hanggang dulo. So, yan ho yung isa sa mga aktual na reforma na dapat hong magawa sa susunod pong 5.5 taon.
Sir, last point. Sir, have you raised the concern na yung mga sundalo at polis naman talaga, generally, kaya based dun sa mga nagkaroon ng interes sa pabahay, ay ayaw naman talaga nila na magkaroon ng housing outside their own province. Kasi yung mga nadedeploy sa Mindanao, umuwi pa rin naman sa Ilocos. So parang hindi ba better na they would just build their own home or houses in their own preferred provinces? Kasi sayang yung nagtatayo ka ng bahay para sa mga polis, hindi naman nila titirahan. Kasi uuwi pa rin yan ng Bulacan, ng Ilocos, or on their own provinces .
So isa ho yun. So dapat nakita na ho yun nung umpisang-umpisa pa lang na meron po talagang ganyang tulak ang atin pong mga kasundaluhan at kapulisan. No? So ibig sabihin dapat naging limited na lang, for example, yung ganun pong mass housing, for example, for the soldiers and for the police. Pero dagdag din ho dyan, isa din ho sa mga dahilan bakit ayaw magpunta ng mga sundalo tsaka pulis dyan. Kasi sobrang liit din ho talaga ng mga bahay. So ibig sabihin, even assuming, for example, na hindi ho substandard ho yung kalidad, dahil napakaliit para sa kanila pong mga pamilya po ito, ibig sabihin, talagang hindi rin ho nila tinatanggap yung pong mga bahay po na ito. So, kumbaga, I would really say that the project should really be reviewed and actual accountability needs to be exacted from all of those that had been involved in it.
Joseph Morong, GMA7.
Hello. Sir, 3 topics lang. Sa first, sa Kadamay, do you think this is going to be the first and last occupation that we will see?
Ako, I'm not certain because I cannot speak for Kadamay, But I think more or less talagang po ito. For as long as we, as government, we fail to resolve the housing problem, talagang ho yan it's going to be a systemic challenge for everyone. So, I cannot make an actual, I cannot speak for them that is something that will not be undertaken anymore, no? Pero, kumbaga, yun na nga ho the nexus of you have houses without people and you have people without houses. That is something that I'm quite certain will still, parang another Kadamay will most definitely happen again.
So meaning if they do another thing, the government cannot, blame them?
Ibig sabihin, I think the attitude of government ever since the president made the pronouncement is never to blame the poor for their troubles. No? So, and I think the president has been very clear about that. That their only sin has been to be poor. So, and that is how the agencies will also proceed in confronting with this problem also.
All right.
So,
Sa Tokhang, yung sa SWS survey, with the way the Tokhang is conducted, the first and the second one, who do you think is bearing the brunt of the campaign?
well, we have to be perfectly honest that much of the Tokhang is being undertaken in urban poor communities. No? But like what I stated earlier, it is also in the interest of the poor the urban poor communities for the drug problem and for criminality to be resolved in many of their areas. So, ano talaga yan eh. I think bahagi po talaga yan ng kampanya. Pero what we are saying is, the other dimension towards resolving the problem is needed to be undertaken also. So, yung pong mga people's orgs tsaka NGOs within the communities, the leaders themselves, need to be parang pushed to the forefront in resolving this crisis.
Do you agree with the strategy?
I think so.
Why?
In terms of responding to this, no, talagang ano ho yan eh. Bahagi po yan dun sa in terms of law enforcement ng atin pong ano. I think that is something that needs to be clearly undertaken also.
Last na lang sa NGCP, when are you going to convene the interagency and what are the options for the affected residents?
I think in the next 2 days, makapagpapatawag na ho tayo ng interagency patungkol po rito. So, iimbitahin ho natin yung NGCP, several of the LGUs that are affected, and yung pong housing agencies that can be consulted with this. No? Pero I think what we would want to see there is, kung wala pa hong interim solution, sa totoo lang, pabayaan na ho muna silang makabalik ngayon.
Dun sa tower?
Hindi, I mean, to wherever it is, that's acceptable for where they can stay. Kasi hindi naman ho yan actually within the tower eh. Parang within the transmission lines ho yan eh.
Di ba nasunog yung ilalim kaya siya nasunog? Kaya bumagsak yung
Yeah,
tower.
but of course...
Do you want them to go back there?
No. What they're saying is, parang, we have to provide an interim solution for them. Kasi I'm quite certain there are no houses yet available for all of them, no, at this point. So, I think an interim solution can be done. So, for example, we had done it in several of the fires previously, no. So, particularly those that are involving agencies, pinabayaan na lang ho muna eh, ng mga ahensya na makabalik muna doon sa mga nasunugan pong lugar. So, if that is something that can be done for NGCP, I think that is something that we would advise to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Henry Uri, DZRH.
Hi, sir. Magandang tanghali po. During the Aquino administration, 18.9 billion pesos ang kanilang ginamit na pondo para sa flagship housing program para sa mga pulis at sundalo. Pero ito ngayon, ang problema, hindi tinitirhan sapagkat walang maayos na pasilidad. May naamoy ba kayo o may iimbestigahan ba kayong korupsyon sa bagay na ito?
Well, unang sa wala na ako sa Kongreso, no? So, wala na ako kaming parang investigative powers to do it. No? But I wanted to say that I think our allies in Congress ought to really further investigate accountability dito po sa mga lugar na ito. Kasi obviously, in terms of the project planning itself, parang may problema na ho. So, for example, in terms of site identification, in terms of the quality of the housing themselves, in terms of the actual absence of facilities and services. So marami hong problema yun. So tingin ko dapat meron pa hong mga dagdag na pagdinig ang Kongreso po patungkol dito para malaman din ho natin talaga sino ba talaga yung meron hong pananagutan sa proyekto pong ito.
Sa inyong tingin, may sabwatang naganap sa pagitan po ng mga developer at ng mga nakalipas na may hawak ng housing project sa mga nakalipas na administrasyon?
I think malalaman ho natin yan sa mga pagdinig na mga susunod pa, particularly focusing on the project planning itself.
Pero kung kayo ang tatanungin, dapat may managot dito sa bagay na ito.
Tingin ko dapat may managot kasi sa loob ho ng mahabang panahon, zero ho yung tumire. Hindi ho ba? Parang, I would say that it was a project that was meant to fail. Parang ganun.
Dapat may managot, dapat may makulong.
Siyempre, dapat ho. Kasi pondo ho ng bayan ho yan eh. Tapos basta whatever it is that, whatever accountability that can be exacted, civil, administrative, criminal, it ought to be undertaken in respect to this project.
All right. Salamat po.
Thank you, Henry. Rose Navenario, Hataw.
Good afternoon.
Ay, ma'am.
Bilang dating leader ng militanteng grupo, hindi po ba kayo nagkakaroon ng koordinasyon sa Kadamay dahil rin po ito ay militanteng grupo, di ba? Dati po ninyo itong mga kaalyado at maaaring hanggang ngayon ay kaalyado nyo sila. Sabi po kasi dati nung nakaraang linggo, sabi ni Presidente, pag inulit nyo yung pag-occupy, basuka na yung haharap sa inyo. So naniniwala po ba kayo dun sa sinabi ng Presidente na parang huli na ito hindi na kayo pwede umulit?
Tingin ko tama naman yung sinabi ni Presidente na, ibig sabihin, hindi naman literal na dapat i-take na ibabasuka ho yung mga tao. Pero siyempre, it serves as a warning that I don't think that the president would look kindly again, no, for another occupation. But syempre, we also wanted to state na this is a systemic matter, no, that we really have to confront as government. So, ano yan, talagang if we fail to make actual steps towards resolving the housing crisis, I'm quite certain something like this will happen again. So, ibig sabihin, it's a continuing homework for all of the agencies involved na talagang ayusin at talagang galingan ho yung trabaho po dito sa pabahay.
At may mga ayuda naman po kayong binibigay sa mga urban poor communities. Pwede po ba silang kausapin ng PCUP na magsumikap din naman po sila para makakuha po ng sarili nilang pabahay na dadaan po sa tamang proseso, hindi po yung sa paraan ng pang-aagaw ng pabahay na may pabahay?
Well, syempre kasama ho yan, ano? Kasama ho talaga yan dun sa mga trabaho po ng PCUP, particularly dahil yung pong PCUP, yung social preparation po ng mga komunidad, kami ho talaga yung nakaatang po dito.
So may posibilidad po na makausap nyo nga po yung Kadamay na pwedeng, halimbawa, ceasefire muna sa agawan ng pabahay. Pwede ba yung ganon?
Continuing naman ho yung dialogue sa totoo lang. Sa pagitan ho ng PCUP at ng Kadamay. Isa ho yan doon sa mga palagian din naman po namin na pag-uusapan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Thank you, Commissioner Ridon. Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Morning. We have a few updates before we go into a short question and answer period. Short. Take note, okay. On the government's anti-endo drive, it nets 45,605 regularized workers. And the president's campaign promise to end contractualization has become a reality. From July 2016 to March 2017, the DOLE has reported that it successfully regularized these said numbers. To support measures in abolishing illegal contractualization practices, DOLE recently issued Department Order Number 174 on contracting and subcontracting. It authorizes labor groups, along with labor compliance officers, to review establishments in observance of existing labor laws and regulations. We remain committed to provide stable and secure jobs for the Filipino people. On the IMF statement that the Philippine economy remains fastest growing in the region, the economy continues to surge and lead the pack. The IMF looks forward to the Philippines' economic growth of 6.8% for this year and 6.9% in 2018. The projected growth of 6.8% for this year, which is attributed to maintaining domestic demand, progress in export, and the administration's increased infrastructure spending, is within the target of 6 to 7% growth for 2017. With the timely unveiling of the Thirdonomics, we hope to sustain robust economic growth and push for big-ticket infrastructure projects. We will improve people's mobility and accessibility to jobs and services, thus making the cost of moving people, goods, and services more competitive. Few questions?
Laila Salaveria, Inquirer.
Yes, ma'am.
Microphone. Salamat.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a report that the fire trucks deal of the DILG will still push through. The contract was reason enough for the president to fire his previous DILG secretary. So, what does the palace think of this development?
I believe that there's a certain process going on. We don't know yet the final status of those fire trucks. If there's any formal statement to stop the.
Well, there's a DILG official said it will continue in the absence of a TRO, and it's a perfected contract. So, is there a move from Malacanang to ask the DILG to stop it, or
None at this stage. None that has reached my desk at this stage.
So at this point, sir, if it will continue, what does the palace think about it? Since the president has spoken about this.
I understand where you're coming from, but like the man said, unless there's a TRO, okay?
There's nothing that the palace can do to stop.
I'm sure they're taking the appropriate actions, but it has not reached my desk at this stage.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joseph Morong.
Sir, sa Nueva Ecija, Nueva Ecija, the president canceled his supposed scheduled trip to Vizcaya this morning, no? This afternoon. But he's going to meet instead with the Secretary of Transportation.
I believe there's going to be a security briefing regarding the matter.
Okay, and the agenda and the target outcome would be what, sir?
I don't know about the outcomes, but there's going to be a briefing regarding the matter.
Okay, sir.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Questions again?
Travel advisory.
Okay, go, Joseph. Inaandulong.
No, some travel agencies, sir, have expressed concerns about the recent incidents involving terror
Yes.
groups. They feel it might have an adverse effect on tourist arrivals. Is there any directive or effort from the palace to allay fears of foreign tourists?
Well,
planning
first and
trips here?
foremost, the ASEAN meeting has proceeded in Bohol, in the area. And also, as far as reports coming from PNP is come to us, it's refocusing efforts on the security preparations for ASEAN, of course. The task group Bohol is continuing to look at the security system in the venue and where the delegates will be visiting. And also the PNP's Regional Public Safety Battalion is also available in Bohol and in the other areas. Okay, so in other words, the administration, the military, is looking after security in the area, in the region.
Sir, do you see the problem maybe affecting our tourism targets for the year?
On the whole, I suppose not. On the whole, I suppose not.
Thank you.
Joseph Morong?
Sir, one of the bigger travel agencies have said that 500 travelers from Japan, I think, have canceled. They would have spent 30 million pesos, but because of the travel advisories due to the Bohol incident, they have canceled. And I think the agency has written Secretary Teo expressing their concerns.
Yes.
How are we treating all these advisories and the possible effects on the tourist arrivals, sir?
Of course, the advisories come from outside. These are not within our control. On the other hand, we are responding to that, and as far as we can, as far as we have done our due diligence regarding the matter. However, on the whole, the tourist interest in the Philippines continues to surge. So it'll all even up.
And we can confidently say, you talking to the other markets, that the Philippines is safe?
Yes, definitely.
Pia Ranyada? Follow-up yan sa security, Pia? Wait, may question ba about security? Okay, Pia Ranyada.
Sir, I just wanted to get the palace statement on my earlier question to Chairman Ridon on the erosion of trust among the poor based on the Pulse Asia survey. Sir, is the palace worried about this erosion in trust given that the president always parang positions himself as a pro-poor president, someone who is a champion of the masses?
You know, Chair Ridon put it excellently. It's in the interest of the poor that these matters are addressed. And as a whole, the president has actually positioned himself as a pro-poor leader. So, in a sense, it's a question of being able to dialogue with the whole nation regarding the matter, and that it is always, like the gentleman said, in the interest of the poor that these things be resolved properly.
But sir, does the palace think these figures, this erosion in trust, is cause for alarm, concern?
Not alarm. Yes.
Sir, what's your reaction to the erosion?
The
reaction of the palace to this?
I would say that there is a dip instead of an erosion. Yes.
May follow-up question kay Pia? Other is Pia Gutierrez, our new West member ng MPC.
Hello, Pia.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Hi.
Sir, DNR Secretary Gina Lopez has said today that the president has given the go-ahead for her to work with the members of the NPA. That's for development projects in mining communities in Agusan del Norte. Sir, can we confirm this? And are there directives already coming from the president how this can be done?
Regarding that, that needs to be verified if she actually has that particular agreement. But that needs to be verified. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay, Pia. Follow-up. Raymond Tinasa, then to be followed by Ace Romero.
So just to be clear about the statement of the president, his plan to yung armasan yung mga civilian. Sir, ano ba yun? Limited dun sa Bohol against the terrorist Abu Sayyaf or nationwide yung scope ng pag-armas?
I think the statement was about Bohol, no? But in a sense, it was a dramatization of making sure that security is raised up in the area.
Relatedly, yung sa kampanya laban sa terorista, wouldn't you push for urgency yung pagpapas ng panukalang national ID system para once and for all magkaroon mas mabilis yung identification who are roaming around its community like what happened to Bohol, di ba nakapasok yung Abu Sayyaf?
So your question is?
Would you push for the passage of the national ID system?
That seems to be the general tendency, the general direction, yes.
Also, last point. So kasi last administration, nagkaroon pa ng inventory doon sa mga kulurum, mga bases na or flying EDSA and even in the provincial roads na mga hindi na dapat nandun sa kalsada.
Okay.
Wala nangyari. Now, can you assure us na may political will this time na, and do you have any timeline na, kasi identified na yan yung mga kulurum, mga kambal plaka, and those who are not already worthy to be at the roads already, na matanggal na yan kasi paulit-ulit lang itong senaryo yung nangyari sa Nueva Ecija.
We need to refer this to DOTR.
And we expect Secretary Tugade to do,
I would say so. I'm sure that's going to be part of the
Drastic
outcomes of the briefing this afternoon.
At totoong may paramdam.
I'm assuming.
Thank you, Raymond. Follow-up sa Bohol, Dexter Ganibe, and
Sir,
Celerina
one
Joseph.
clarification lang. Good afternoon po.
Yes, yes.
Sir, you said dramatization lang. What do you mean?
What was the statement of the president?
Armasan yung mga sibilyan.
It doesn't mean to say that every house will be having that. I'm sure it's simply. I'm assuming that part of the civil defense, will be the ante would be pushed up. Yeah.
But the president is serious about that pag-aarmas sa mga
Serious about raising security, yes.
raising security but not dun sa issue ng pag-aarmas.
Well, that's something that says to be left to him. But definitely, what he's saying is that he supports raising security in the area.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dexter. Security? Joseph, to be followed by Celerina.
Quick lang, sir. Sir, hindi naman figurative speech yan.
Let's put it this way: the president has a way of underlining what he wants to do. Okay.
So it is.
So which one?
The pag-aarmas ng civilian, because if it's a figurative speech, some may take it literally.
It's not a policy direction. Okay, it's a policy. There's no paper to support that.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that this is his intention. Okay. To
Okay,
raise security. Okay.
Last two questions, Celerina and Ace Romero.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, clarification lang regarding sa statement nyo na regarding the national ID na that seems to be the general direction. So, does that mean that the government would revive this national ID system which was junked before by the court or may
I
pa-prioritize
think it's being considered, in other words. As far as I know, it's being considered.
When you say being considered, magkakaroon ba ng sariling draft ang administration or you would just support some pending bills na nasa Congress
We'll
right
see
now?
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
But will this be part of the priorities of the administration?
It's part of the in terms of being pushed in the PLLO. In the legislation. I'm not sure that needs to be verified.
Okay, thank you, Celerina. Ace Romero.
Spokes, gusto ko lang malaman kung meron na pong bagong Bangko Sentral Governor appointee.
Meron na. As far as we know, none yet.
Pero yung announcement ba forthcoming na? Kailan mag-a-announce ng bago?
Antayin na lang po natin.
Wala pa. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Malacanang. Sige, Joseph, last.
Sa Reuters lang, yung campaign is being staged according to two PNP officials. I don't think we got the reaction from yesterday, so ngayon na lang.
Well, the admission of Reuters that it could not independently verify or confirm the allegations, it's a bit weak.
Parang familiar, sir, yung term.
Okay, thank you, Malacanang
Thank you
Press
very
Corps.
much.
Thank you, Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella. Thank you, Commissioner Ridon. Back to our main studio sa Radyo ng Bayan and People's Television Network.